It's been a minute since I've been on this camera, but as you can see, I had to do some recovery, all right? I had to do some recovery because, you know, I'm trying to get augmented. The future is here.
Once I discovered the weakness of my flesh, I yearned for biotech.
So now I'm gonna get a mechanical arm, all right? So next time you see me, I'm gonna have a robot arm right here. It's gonna be nice bolted on. No, I'm just joking. I was in a car accident that was not my fault. I am an ambulance driver. I ride the ambulance. I take people to the hospital.
Where the ambulance? Why the man body still right there?
And this time, I had to get taken to the hospital because I was in an Uber accident. Not my accident. Not me behind the wheel, okay? Because I'm a safe driver. But this Uber driver I was with, he was driving, I wouldn't say reckless, but a little too fast.
Rich and Millie, I was moving too fast. And I knew it wouldn't last.
This guy is trying to shoo. Now, I don't mind getting to my destination a little bit like early, but I want to get there in one piece, right? And, you know, I'm not trying to be a nerd, even though I'm wearing the glasses right now. I'm not trying to be a sherm. I'm not trying to be like, excuse me, can you go a little bit slower? Like, nah, bro. I try to play it cool. Like, hey, man, you know, you doing your thing. You look like you know what you're doing. Just get me there safe. So he's switching through the lanes and he's in the middle lane. He's trying to overtake this truck in front of him. He's about to slam in the back of a truck. But before he does that, he slams on the brakes. I'm like, oh, what's going on? We stop dead in the middle of traffic, right? I look up, boom. Another car from behind came in and crashed into us. Being in a car accident, it's like teleporting, bro. It's like you go from looking this way to looking this. So just to make this long story short, I don't want to bore you guys with my life story, okay? Just to make a long story short, I had to get shoulder surgery, all right? And this was one of the most painful experiences. Well, I had other painful experiences, but this is up there. I couldn't sleep. I went through another state of sleep insomnia. Not being able to turn off is a nightmare. Not being able to just go to sleep and be like, all right, I don't want to exist right now. I don't want to be here right now. This body is paining. It's a lot of painful to be here. I want to astral project. I want to go into the stars. And the fact that I can't do that, I'm stuck in my body just feeling all this pain. I had to take this. Before you go and say I'm a hypocrite and shit like that, because I know I said one time on my channel I would never take medication because I think being a herbalist and getting, you know, natural remedies, I don't think you should depend on either one, strictly herbalist or strictly onto medication. You know, this helped me, but now I can fall asleep. I don't need these no more. I think I'm pretty healed up. I don't think I need this anymore. This muscle right here, it was like down here. After the surgery, I look like Popeye the Sailor Man. This muscle was right down there. But now it moved back up. Now, behold, my new and improved. You got the stitches right there. I was bleeding like buckets out of that armpit, bro. And it was not a pleasant smell. And I got these 2 holes that they made in my shoulder to put the sutures in to like sew up the muscle back to the ligament. And I got the markings right there from the time I took. This wasn't one of the most painful experiences. That one was. This one, that's a story time I gotta tell you guys about. Not all the way there, man. I still gotta do a little bit more therapy, but you know what I'm gonna get for this, man? Tell the insurance man.
Tell them to bring me my money.
They say that money is the root of all evil, but I think it's greed that reveals the truth in all people. Like when they say they love you, but leave when they don't need you. Or when they want something, they come around to deceive you. Now, I made a video a while back talking about this book and how you should not read this book because it's a dangerous book, which was actually reverse psychology. I wanted you to read it. I believe that this book is an introduction to the dark side of human psychology that we all strive for. But there's 2 different types of ways you can get this power. And I think I've explained this before. There is the internal conquering of self, conquering of the mind. And then there is the external, where you try to chase the external validation of your peers or your family or friends or whatever, right? I'm a person where I don't like to play mind games. I like to be authentic. I like to be myself. I don't want to put on a show or a charade for anybody. I want to be me 100%, right? But at the same time, there's people that you have to protect yourself from, okay? There's people that you can't reveal too much of yourself to them, or else they'll have ammunition to sabotage. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. And this comes from the words of Niccolo Machiavelli, which was actually the inspiration for the 48 Laws of Power.
About a writer who's obviously been extremely important to me. He was the guiding spirit behind the 48 Laws of Power, undoubtedly, and that is my good friend Niccolo Machiavelli. I had this sense when I was very young that people wore these masks, that they pretend to be something that they're not. And it really fascinated and it troubled me at a very early age. So I read The Prince, and honestly, I don't think I understood a hell of a lot, although, you know, he talks a lot about history and it's fairly straightforward. But I think I was very excited by the language because, you know, oftentimes when you're young, what irritates you about humans and adults is how fake they are, how they pretend to be something that they're not, right? And when you're a kid or you're a child or you're a teenager, you see through it. You see they're faking it. They're putting up a front. That's not really who they are. And it bothers you. Machiavelli just ripped that damn mask off of people's faces and said, this is the human animal as it is. They want power, okay?
Now, why is it better to be feared than loved? It's because love, or the idea of love, can be used as control. It can be used as manipulation, as emotional witchcraft to get you to do what they want you to do, right? A lot of people use the word love, but they're only saying that to say, I like the feeling that you're giving me with the character that you're playing as now, right? I like how you're presenting right now. If you change in any other way that I don't like, then our relationship is going to be rocky. Okay. But you got to stay right where you are. You got to be exactly how you are, how I like you right now. But if you change, there's going to be problems. I might not love you anymore. Machiavelli says, everyone sees what you appear to be, but few experience who you really are. Meaning, most people that you interact with, they're interacting with their idealized version of you. They're not actually interacting with the real you. It's just like that time when I was in school and I was, you know, speaking my regular vernacular, right? Just having my regular conversations. And this teacher, she realized like, I got a pretty big vocabulary, right? Like, and she kind of downplayed me for that. She was like, oh, you think you're smart with using those big words? Nowadays, I don't get offended by people no more. I'm a psychoanalyst, okay? I like to look at people with a clinical eye. You know, I like to break down their psychology like, why does that person think like that? Why does that person think like that? You know why? Because I understand that true power is information. Machiavelli also has this understanding that being too predictable makes you easy to kill. He says, if you know what a man loves, you can use it to bait him. And if you know what a man hates, you can use it as a trap, right? And this kind of reminds me of like video games, right? Like first person shooters. Let's say you're shooting at somebody, right? And your crosshairs is on that person, but that person is like running across the map, right? And every time you're shooting, your bullets are landing behind the person. But if you know where that person's going to be and you aim in front of them, now the bullets are landing on target. That's what being too predictable gets you. When you reveal too much of your plans about your life and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and everybody knows everything about what's going on in your life and everything, you become predictable. And that predictability kills influence. It kills respect, right? When you know somebody, it's like you can read that person's mind in a sense. Now, when I apply all of these philosophies to my life, because I don't just read books to sound smart, I actually apply this stuff to my life, okay? When I apply these things, I see that people tend to not respect you if they know the inner workings of your mind. So I say my favorite law in the 48 laws is the fourth law of power. Always say less than necessary, okay? Because a lot of the times you do more harm than justice when you over-explain yourself, when you give too much information, when you say too much. It's like a movie with a terrible director, right? Like a movie that has so much exposition, it tells you everything. It's like a Morgan Freeman is explaining everything that's on the screen at all times. It's like, all right, and now our heroes make our journey down to the mountain. Now they did this and did that, and happily ever after. Like, nigga, let me watch the movie. You don't gotta explain everything. Like, you know, the best movies, the best films, they don't explain. They show their audience, right? Instead of explaining things, they show their audience, and they leave their audience to make the conclusions themselves. Now, another thing that I've noticed about silence and what it creates, right? Saying less than necessary, it also creates this air of mystery around you, right? Because most people are compulsive with their tongue. Most people love to talk. They love to reveal things. They love to say something because they love to feed their egos. If you're a longtime subscriber, we call the ego the ahamkara, okay? And the ahamkara is basically identification with impermanence. This is what creates the identity of the ego. Most people do not have the mental fortitude to control their ego, which is the attachment to impermanence. What does that mean? Attachment to impermanence, right? Life is temporary. Everything in life is temporary. Everything, down to the last molecule. Nothing lasts forever, okay? But the soul, the spirit, this is, you know, a deeper understanding that consciousness or the mind comes before matter, right? And that all that is here in the material plane is here to be experienced and witnessed by consciousness. Now, when it comes to a person who is ego-driven or an immature mind, they're attached to impermanence out of familiarity, out of comfort, out of fear of the unknown. They don't want to try anything new, or they don't want to evolve past what they already know. So they'll stay stagnant in their lives, and they'll hate on any form of progression, even to their own detriment. They'll like, if it even helps them, they'll hate on it because it's something new. It's something different than what they're used to. Saying less than necessary helps you deal with these types of people because there are very shallow-minded people on this earth, surface-level thinkers. But when you say less around these people, this is what happens. You get the keys to power, right? Because as long as you're not a person who is ego-driven, you know, as long as you're not a person who wants to prove himself, like, no, I'm actually cool. Like, if you don't care what people think about you, saying less than necessary gives you the keys of power. And here's why. Power is in many ways a game of appearance. When you say less than necessary, you inevitably appear greater and more powerful than you actually are. Your silence will make other people uncomfortable. Humans are machines of interpretation and explanation. They have to know what you are thinking. People look for approval in other people, right? And I've learned like the deeper nature of this human psychology within Buddhism, that a lot of people don't know who they are. And so they try to find themselves in the opinions of other people, right? They try to get the validation from someone else to tell them who they are. Now, as a person who is selective with his words and doesn't say too much, you're subconsciously communicating that you don't have anything to prove. And what type of person is that has nothing to prove? A person who lives in abundance, a person who can walk away and do without, a person who is satisfied with himself. You see, most of egocentric behaviors, the egotism, the me, I want to be special, I want to be above everyone else, and all of that comes from dissatisfaction with oneself. You see, when someone is not internally satisfied, they desire for more, and that desire can lead to their own destruction because that desire turns into greed. Now let's bring it back to this concept of love, right? I believe that there's two versions of love. The surface level, commercialized version of it, you know, Valentine's Day, oh, buy the fucking chocolates, buy the balloon hearts and stuff like that, right? And it's fake. It's just fake. It's commercialism. It's just like, oh yeah, like let's get some money. Let's extract money from all these consumers as possible. Like let's get them in this spirit of spending. And then you have real love, which is living on valued energy. LOVE. You saw what I did there? Well, I wasn't really the one who did it, but I think it's pretty smart. That's really smart to remember, right? But what this is basically saying is that love is not something that you give. It is something that you have. It is living on valued energy. Because when you have enough love for yourself, you can properly extend that out to others. Your cup runneth over, right? But if you have no love for yourself, you're living in scarcity. You're living in survival mode. You're doing things for survival. You're not doing things out of the true nature of your heart. You're doing things because you're afraid that, what if I don't do this? Then what would be the consequences of not doing this? I would be alone, and I would be this, and I would be that, and you know what I mean? See, there's a lot of people out there that have friends that treat them terrible. They have friends that they're questionable. Like, are they really friends? Are they really your friends? But they stay around them. Why? Because they're afraid of being alone. They're afraid to be alone. They're afraid of not having friends. And so they put up with terrible treatment. They put up with people disrespecting them. I think that's where the root of all of this power is, where most people are afraid to go alone. Most people are afraid to walk alone, right? And when you develop that within yourself, and Carl Jung, he calls this individuation. When you are able to sit with your own mind and your own emotions without the counsel of other people, you develop mental strength when you don't lean on other people to lift the cognitive load for you. You don't depend on other people to do the thinking for you. Because there's a saying out there, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? And that goes for your brain. A lot of people are not using their brains nowadays, bro. So the more you use it, the more capable or more, competent you become. The reason why I'm picking this book up again is because of this wealth that I just came into, man. This car accident, I'm not going to hold you, man. This put a decent penny in my pocket, bro. It got a little 2 commas in my bank account, you know what I'm saying? So, it puts me in a better position financially, right? Which also brings forth the beggars, the people who think that they're entitled to your money.